What's up everybody, this is Kevin Jones here, and you guys are now on my YouTube channel, so thanks for joining. We're gonna start off with an in the bag. Hope you guys enjoy. All right guys, welcome. We are in my van and this is my in the bag. I'm gonna start everything off with my putters. These are my putting putters right now. They're definitely on the older side for what I prefer. I like putters that are honestly about a week old, and I like 350G plastic because it's really hard. It has no give when you're trying to putt and spring the disc off your finger, so it has no give, so it's really consistent in all scenarios and all weather as well. I'll probably use these for a couple more tournaments until I maybe start losing my feel with them, and then I'll pop another 2 new 350G PA3s in the bag. Next up are my throwing putters. Starting off with the flippiest throwing putter is another 350G PA3, so it's a really hard plastic. It feels really good in my hand. I can hit it on my favorite hyzer angle, and what it'll do is it'll flip up probably a little bit more than flat and even finish a little bit to the right. So it's my flippiest putter. Next in stability is my 750 PA1. This is like hard as a rock. It feels really good in my hand and it has no turn whatsoever. So if I throw this on like my favorite hyzer angle, the Kevin Jones hyzer angle as I like to call it, it's because that's just my most comfortable hyzer angle. So it's just the most natural to me, and that's what I'm going to be throwing all these discs on. I'm trying to make courses fit my game actually. So if I throw this on a hyzer, there's no flip up at all. It just rides the angle all the way to the ground, so it gets a lot of cruise. I can also throw it flat, and if I throw it flat, it'll just hold its line the entire flight and go really straight. Really useful all over the course, so I use this one a bunch. Next in line is the exact same stability of a PA3. So this goes to show that you can have multiple discs that do the same thing for you. This is the only difference in this is that it's 300 plastic, so it's really tacky and grippy. So if I throw it on a line like an island hole and I need it to hit the ground and sit, this is a great disc for that because it'll hit the ground and it's grippy, so it'll just stick right there. So honestly, I'm throwing the last 2 discs the same together. The only difference is this one sticks faster. That green one right there has more skip and glide on the ground. Last in line is my 750G PA1. This is a really overstable disc. There's no turn at all to the right. So when I throw it hard on my favorite angle, it really comes to the ground really fast. So if I throw it on a hyzer angle, it's gonna get to the ground super fast. The wind isn't gonna affect it, but I can also throw it flat or even on a slight anhyzer and get it to actually finish out. It never fades off to the right for me. So it's my most overstable putter. So we're gonna move on to my mid-ranges now. Mid-ranges are really important to me because they're going further than the putters. My mid-ranges are flying almost 400 feet sometimes, but really I don't like to throw them more than about 380 feet. So start off with the most flippiest mid-range. We have an old M4. This M4, it was big germs like a lot of my discs at one point, and it just has a ton of flip to it. So if I throw it on my favorite angle, being that hyzer angle, I get it to flip up to straight and even like drifting to the right the entire flight. So it's a really workable disc in the woods. I don't have to throw it very hard to get great use out of this disc. Next in stability, just a tick more stable, is another M4. This is a very similar run, very similar shape as well. It's got a flat top, but it also has like a little bit of glide. You can tell it's not just bored flat. So this is just a little bit more stable than that last M4. If I throw this on my angle on hyzer, I can get it to flip up straight, but not much further past straight. So it's a great disc for me to just zip up on a hyzer angle in the woods. Or if I need, I can hit it on a flat angle and drift it all the way to the right for long shots as well. Now I've got 2 400G M4s right here. These discs are sick. These are some of my favorite discs of all time. They have incredible dome and glide, and also great stability. The great thing about these discs is it takes my power and they just go straight. They just hold the line and glide as far as possible. So I'm using these discs for as many mid-range shots as I can possibly use them for. Anytime that there's space as well, these are the discs to go for, because I can choose my desired angle and just let it hold that angle the whole flight, but also get really good distance. My last mid-range, other than the A series, is a M1, a Proto M1 right here. This is a great disc because it complements my other mid-ranges as well. All of my M4s here have turn and a bunch of glide to them. This one has no turn whatsoever. So if I'm playing an open course where there's a bunch of wind, possibly like Vegas, for example, last weekend, this is a great disc for that course because there's no turn to the right, even in the wind, and I can get it to just cruise and do very comfortable lines for me. I can also hit it really flat, and it just holds that line for the longest time and then finishes left every time. So really trustworthy disc. Also really used disc in my bag. Now we're gonna move on to the A series. So I'm gonna start off with my two A3s. These are by far my favorite disc that Prodigy has made. It actually took me a while to get used to these discs. They have like a whistle when you throw them. It's known for that. So it was a little awkward actually getting to throw that disc. I felt like something was wrong. But once I actually bit the bullet and started throwing these, they became weapons in my bag immediately. I started playing way better at a lot of tournaments, like Green Mountain for a great example. This was one of the first tournaments that I actually used the A3 in, and I actually won that event. So it tells you that I have a bunch of confidence in these discs. I have a flippier one right here just to hold the line a little bit longer. I throw it sidearm or backhand. They go the exact same distance, about 335, 340 feet with no wind, and they also do great in the wind as well. I like them because they just hold the line for a long time and then dump pretty hard at the end, but they don't have much glide, so they're falling to the ground fast. They're very easy to control, and the most important thing is they're very torque resistant. So you can throw them really hard on a sidearm and they're just gonna go straight for a long time. So these are my favorite discs. Check them out. I will definitely have these as tour discs all year long. So if you buy A3s, they'll be supporting me. I also carry one A2 to complement those A3s right there. If there's so much wind that I'm feeling like I should be throwing an A3 on this shot, but there's so much wind that I'm doubting it, I easily step up to the A2, and it's a great complement to the A3s. It's got tons of stability. It fights harder to the ground. So unlike the A3s, this disc will land on an angle when it comes to the ground. The A3s will land flat, and that's great to prevent rollaways. All right, next in line, we have the Fairway Drivers. Fairways are something I've been focusing on a bunch lately, trying to really improve my game. People like Calvin Heimberg and Paul Macbeth have mastered the fairway game, and it does wonders out there on certain courses. So I'm trying to get better at it, and I sure am. Starting with my most flippy, I have an F7 stamped H4 V2 right here. Really beautiful Frisbee. I'm in love with this disc. It's great for rollers, but it's also great to throw on my favorite angle and get it to flip up past flat, but it's also great for some cruise to the right and back to the left. One of the more unique discs in my bag is my 400G F5. This F5 is a little bit flatter than your average F5, and for that reason, I'm able to sidearm it so much better, and I really enjoy throwing this disc in the woods. This disc actually almost single-handedly won me the Majestic last year. I was throwing this disc on their really difficult wooded holes all over the course, and I was making shots that just were a lot more difficult for other players and for me usually, but this disc was like a cheater disc for me, so hopefully you'll see it a bunch more on tour. The next step up in stability are my other F5s. These are just really nice early run F5s right here. They're really overstable for an F5, so honestly, when I throw them on a hyzer, they hold the hyzer pretty hard. They can flip up to almost flat, but usually they're just cruising back to the left. Unless there's some headwind, then I can get them to flip up to flat and kind of have some more flight. But usually I'm throwing these discs on flat lines, because if I throw them super flat with my fan grip like this, they cruise just a little bit to the right and then come back to the left every time. They're really consistent, and they're a great complement to my M4s because they just go further than the M4s by another 40, 50 feet. So it's a great addition to my bag right here. The last fairway driver that I have is a 750 H1, OG H1. So this was early one. It's not in production anymore, but you can still find them around. They're not that expensive. This is a really pretty one though. It has zero turn to the right. I don't use this disc actually all that much, but sometimes it's the perfect disc. For those of you that like flat top Firebirds, this is definitely the equivalent for that. All right, so now we get to move on to my favorite part, and that's the distance drivers. My distance drivers are locked. I have a bunch actually, but they're all D2s and D1s. So I'm gonna start with my D2s. First off, the flippiest ones. The flippiest one actually is this bad boy right here. This is the Maple Hill Ace disc, the Slip Ace disc. You guys have probably seen it. One of the coolest moments of my life, and I still have the disc. Thank goodness. It's one of the few that I still have. I really hope to keep hanging on to this one for the longest time. I've definitely lost it multiple times, and if you're one of those who has returned this disc to me, you have no idea how much that means to me. This one keeps coming back. I gotta really take care of this one, that's for sure. But I get this one, I use it in all scenarios. I use it for hyzer sidearms if I want a lot of glide, hit them on a hyzer, flip them up all the way to flat, and then maybe even a little bit past flat, and get them to finish out to the right. So I'm getting monster distance with them on my sidearms, and also with my backhands. I'm throwing them for backhand rollers sometimes even. There's actually a really cool memory of a backhand roller in a GK Pro Skins match at Smuggler's Notch. I'm sure they'll cue the video up right now, but it was amazing, amazing roller. So yeah, check it. Next is the identical twin to that one. We have the other 400G D2 right here. The red ones, for me, they run on the flippier side of this run of D2. So I'm throwing this on my favorite angle, a nice hyzer angle, and I'm getting it up all the way past flat, getting some turn to the right, and then back to the left. If there's any wind, I'll easily step up one disc to my blue D2. And my blue D2 is just the perfect complement to that last red one, a little bit more stability to it, so I can trust it a little bit more in the wind. So the next step up in stability is this orange D2 right here. The blue D2 has great glide and great stability, but not quite enough if I'm facing some kind of headwind or if I just want that dependability. So then I step up to the orange D2. If I'm looking for more stability in my D2s, I've got a purple D2 right here. Absolute bomber, used to be Garrett Gurthey's, so you know it can go far. But this disc is amazing. It's got a ton of stability, and it's like what I'm throwing into headwinds on open courses to get a lot of distance and a lot of glide. So that, and I also have another very similar D2 as well, and it's pretty much the same as that last one. It's got a bigger dome to it, so I'd like to think it can go a little bit farther, but it's got all the stability as well. So this is great. All of these D2s, I'm really comfortable throwing them somewhere around 475, like every time, just hitting them on my hyzer angle, getting them to flip up a little bit and then back down. But I can easily stretch them to like 550 if I want more turn. Things I'll do is speed up my run up. If I want a little bit more oomph on the disc, I have a faster run up that I can apply to it. The way that I'm dicing up courses is I'm using these D2s, and I know that by stability, they're gonna have different distances, like being the more overstable ones are not gonna go as far as the flippy ones, because the flippy ones are holding their lines for a little bit longer. So if I want more distance, I'll step down in stability. If I want less distance, I'll step up in stability, and even so far up as a D1 possibly. So I have 3 more discs in my bag right here, and these are just D1s. starting with this one right here. This is just my straighter D1, so if I want a nice, trustworthy, straight shot, I'll throw this one. The difference between my D1s and D2s are glide. The D1 just doesn't have quite as much glide as your average D2. So what I'm able to do with that is keep the disc on a straighter line. More glide means more area to fly it most of the time, like more time for flip and all that stuff. So if I want a disc to just push straight for as long as possible, I'll use this one. I sacrifice distance, but it's very useful sometimes for like wooded courses. Now I have another D1 right here, which is just a step up in stability from that one. Trustworthy disc and just more overstable. My D1s, I'm comfortable with throwing around 450 feet, just a little bit under my D2s usually. If I'm going for max distance, I'll go with the D2s. If I'm going for a landing zone, I go with my D1s. So you'll see me on courses at like Ledgestone, the Eureka Temp course, a bunch of roped landing zones. I'll use my D1s, this one specifically out there, to land the disc in landing zones more consistently. And then finally is my X1 equivalent. It's a D1, but by all means, it's the exact same thing. It is really flat top, no turn, total beef. I can throw it in any wind scenario. It's just a great useful disc. I also use this for like kind of fairway chip shots. If I have a shot like 300 feet out where I want to flick up from the outside easily, I can use this disc on a hyzer, or I can hit it flat and even bring it to 350. So that's how I'm controlling my distances though, is I'm hitting them on hyzer if I want less distance, or hitting them on flat if I want a little bit more distance. All right, so lastly, if you're wondering other little trinkets in my bag, I've definitely got chalk. I'm a big chalk user. I feel like it's the best option if you can't get your hands dry in the summer. It always gets your hands dry. So you just get it real chalky as you want, and then wipe it on your pants to find that nice layer that you want. That's how you do it. And then you got your chalk. So I highly recommend chalk. Let's see, I've got a towel over here. Go throw, baby. Go throw. And then lastly, my rangefinder. Gotta have a Bushnell rangefinder. So thankful for them hooking me up with this. Shout out to Bushnell. But this is the most useful thing ever. It measures in feet, and this is a huge part of my game as well. I know exactly how far my discs are flying, and so when I need to mash it up on courses, I just like fix my angles just by minor adjustments in order to make the distances work. If you guys want to get your own rangefinder, you can do that. There will be a link right down below, and if you go through that link, it'll be supporting the GK Pro guys as well, so gotta love it. Lastly, I would like to thank my sponsors, Prodigy Disc, Legit Disc Golf, Team Cedar Creek, and the Next Gen Tour. Also, I'd like to thank all the GK Pro guys so much for helping me out with this video. Also, make sure you check out my channel, like and subscribe, and there will be tons more content coming for you guys this year. I'm super looking forward to it. See you guys there.